tax burdens, net migration, and the brutal reality of housing to income ratios. We have crunched the data from the United States Census Bureau, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, and the Tax Foundation to build a forecast for 2026. This is not about politics. It is about the math of survival. This is Stellar State Stats, where we rank the 50 United States using real data. Today, we are calculating the misery index for 2026. We are looking beyond temporary problems to find the places where the foundational math of living there is breaking down. We are counting down the 10 states you should think twice about moving to. The results might surprise you. So what exactly goes into this outlook? We built it on 3 core measurable metrics that directly impact your wallet and your future. First, the overall tax burden. This is not just income tax. It is the total share of your income that goes to state and local taxes, property, sales, everything. A high burden here means less money in your pocket from day one. Second, net migration. This is the clearest signal of people voting with their feet. When more people are leaving a state than moving in, especially working-age adults, it is a red flag for long-term economic vitality and community stability. Third, and most critical for 2026, is the housing cost to income ratio. We are looking at the median monthly housing cost as a percentage of the median household income. When this number climbs too high, it crushes disposable income and makes building wealth nearly impossible. We weigh these metrics sourced from the Census Bureau, BLS, and the Tax Foundation to highlight states where these pressures are converging. This combination does not just show a state having a bad year. It reveals places where the financial pressure is becoming fundamentally unsustainable for the middle class. You might expect this list to be dominated by the traditional Rust Belt, but the 2026 forecast shows the misery index is creeping into some of the wealthiest corridors in the country. We start with a surprise at number 10. State 10, Maryland. The numbers here reveal a collision course. Maryland has some of the high state and local income taxes in the nation. The problem is that wage growth has been stagnant, so you are paying a top-tier rate without a top-tier income increase to offset it. The data suggests the high cost of living, centered around the D.C. corridor, is now outpacing the economic benefits for many residents. From 2020 to 2024, Maryland recorded a net domestic out-migration of roughly 85,000 residents, according to United States Census estimates. State 9, Alaska. This is a story of extreme economic volatility. Alaska's state budget is overwhelmingly dependent on oil revenues. When those prices swing, everything swings: public services, infrastructure projects, and economic stability. This creates a boom and bust cycle that makes long-term planning, whether for a business or a family, incredibly difficult. Alaska has posted net population losses in 3 of the last 4 years, with domestic outmigration exceeding 1.5% of the population since 2020. The migration numbers show people are leaving for more predictable economies. Number 8, Mississippi. The issue here is chronic underinvestment. We're looking at decades of data showing lower per capita spending on critical infrastructure and education. This creates a cycle. Lower investment leads to a less skilled workforce and poorer public amenities, which then fails to attract new business or retain talent. Median household income in Mississippi remains about 25% below the national average, while housing costs have risen faster than incomes since 2020. The statistical result is persistently lower incomes, making even moderate costs of living feel overwhelming. State 7, West Virginia. The metrics point to a demographic collapse compounded by limited options. The state has one of the oldest median ages in the country and a steadily declining population. Over 20% of residents are aged 65 or older, shrinking the tax base relative to rising service demand. When the working age cohort shrinks, it strains everything: the tax base for pensions, the customer base for small businesses, and the sustainability of rural hospitals. Without significant economic diversification, the data shows this trend is locked in. The common thread for these first four states is a demographic or economic mismatch. As we move into the next three states, we see a different phenomenon. States where the fixed costs of living are accelerating at a rate that is actively hollowing out the middle class. Look at your own monthly bank statement for a moment. If your fixed costs, your rent or mortgage, insurance and taxes take up more than 50% of your take-home pay, you are living in a personal red zone regardless of your state. Keep that ratio in mind as we move into the states where that exact pressure is accelerating. State 6, Louisiana. The data here has to account for a new critical variable, environmental vulnerability. Beyond the well-known economic challenges, the state faces a compounding crisis with property insurance. Premiums have increased over 60% since 2020. This increase has been driven largely by repeated storm losses. That is not just a statistic. For a standard $300,000 home, that is an extra $200 to $400 every single month just to keep the same roof over your head. That is a car payment now going to insurance. This skyrocketing fixed cost, layered on top of other burdens, is accelerating outmigration as the math of staying becomes impossible for many. State 5, Connecticut. The metrics reveal a state developing a two-tiered society with a very high exit cost. On paper, Connecticut has a high median income, but the wealth distribution is extremely uneven. The cost of living, particularly property taxes, is so elevated that it erases the income advantage for anyone outside the top tier. Connecticut has seen consistent domestic outmigration since 2019, totaling 120,000 residents, even as median home prices climbed. The migration data is clear. Middle-class families are leaving. The problem is selling a home in a high-tax state to move elsewhere involves significant financial friction, creating a golden handcuffs effect that traps some residents even as the overall trend declines. State 4, New Jersey. This is a case study in the tax corridor effect. New Jersey homeowners pay the highest property taxes in the nation, averaging over $9,000 per household per year. Many New Jersey residents also bear the burden of commuting costs when working in New York City. The middle-class retention metrics are particularly concerning. When you analyze net migration, it is not just a population shift. It is a specific drain of the established middle class. They are being replaced more slowly by new entrants, who are often younger and have lower immediate earnings. This changes the demographic and economic fabric, and it puts more strain on social services from a narrowing base. The data shows Louisiana, Connecticut, and New Jersey are now losing their core tax base at an accelerating rate. That makes reversing the trend statistically more difficult each year. We are now entering the top three. These are not just states with issues, these are states where the structural math has reached a tipping point. In these three states, the mismatch between income and survival has become the new operating system. These three states are in the statistical red zone. These are the outliers where the foundational pillars of the American dream, housing, tax stability, and growth, are most severely challenged. State 3, New York. To understand New York, you must separate the powerful downstate economic engine from the lived experience upstate. The mathematics of departure are stark. New York leads the nation in the sheer number of residents moving to other states. From 2020 to 2024, New York recorded a net domestic outmigration of over 1 million residents, the largest of any state. The driving metric is not just high taxes, which are significant, but the housing cost to income ratio in the major metro areas. For a median income, the share going to housing is so high, it fundamentally resets the standard of living calculation. The urban-rural divide within the state exacerbates this, as upstate communities struggle with a different version of the same affordability crisis without the metro area wage premium. The numbers suggest the state is retaining wealth, but losing the broad middle class that sustains a diverse economy. State 2, Illinois. The pension crisis here is not a political talking point, it is a mathematical certainty with a direct fiscal impact. Illinois' public pension systems are funded at roughly 45%, among the lowest levels in America, increasing long-term fiscal pressure. The unfunded pension liabilities are so large they represent a multi-decade claim on future state revenue. This translates into predictable pressure. Either taxes must increase to unprecedented levels, or essential services from infrastructure to education face continuous cuts. This uncertainty is reflected perfectly in the migration data. Illinois has seen a consistent, multi-year outflow of residents, one of the longest sustained trends in the country. Businesses and families are not reacting to a single event, they are pricing in this long-term fiscal reality, making decisions today based on projections for 2030 and beyond. State 1, California. How does the state with one of the world's largest economies, immense prosperity, and technological innovation top this list? The answer lies in the metrics of fundamental affordability breakdowns. California's prosperity metrics, like gross domestic product and venture capital, are astronomical. But for the average resident, the median housing cost-to-income ratio is among the worst in the nation. We are talking about a situation where median home prices are more than 7 times the median household income. This creates a permanent rental class for a huge portion of the population, eroding the ability to build generational wealth. The tax burden is high, but the real story is the cost of simply existing: housing, insurance, and utilities. Those costs have outpaced wage growth for everyone outside the top income brackets. Migration data shows a clear pattern. Lower and middle-income households are leaving while high-income arrivals continue. This is not a population decline in raw numbers, but a profound socioeconomic shift. The state is becoming a statistical outlier, where the dream is statistically inaccessible to the very people who form the backbone of its communities. The outlook for these top 3 is the most concerning because the trends are deeply embedded in their economic structures. In New York, it is the cost of space. In Illinois, it is the debt of the past. In California, it is the price of prosperity itself. They represent the extreme end of the spectrum, where the mismatch between costs and quality of life returns is not a temporary squeeze, but the new operating system. The data suggests avoiding these states is not about politics, but about mathematical sustainability. The common denominator is a fundamental mismatch between costs and the quality of life returns for the middle class. Your next move? Take your monthly housing cost and divide it by your gross income. If that number is over 35%, you are in the same danger zone as the states we just covered. If you are looking for positive momentum, compare these metrics to states like Florida, Tennessee, or the Carolinas, where the numbers show a more favorable balance. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments which state's data shocked you the most. For more data-driven state rankings that look beyond the headlines, subscribe to Stellar State Stats.